Of the 1960s, Project Gemini is launched, a vital transition program between Mercury and Apollo. Gemini, a two-man capsule, must have the ability to locate, rendezvous, and dock with another spacecraft. It is expected that Gemini will also provide sophisticated physiological data about human responses to extended spaceflight. Initial missions progress throughout 1965, focusing on maneuverability, extended flight length, and rendezvous. And so, to Gemini 8. While progress continues above the Earth's atmosphere, below it the Gemini team and the recovery response teams are also honing their skills. There are still 11 days of simulation ahead. In the Atlantic Ocean, USS Boxer practices capsule recovery with a replica of the Gemini craft. Back at the newly renamed Cape Kennedy, recovery is planned and coordinated by a NASA team of specialists, which works closely with the Department of Defense. The manager for manned spacecraft support directs the worldwide recovery operation. The red telephone is close at hand, putting him in direct contact with the highest levels of the Department of Defense, should their assistance be required. Preparations must be made for every contingency. If a mission is aborted, it is possible that the crew may need to use their ejector seats and parachutes to make their return on land. Astronauts have been given extensive survival training. With these skills behind them, it is the turn of Neil Armstrong and David Scott to put Gemini to the test. 10 a.m., March 16, 1966, and the target vehicle, Agena, is launched. Powered by 2 booster engines and 1 sustainer engine, it will be propelled to an altitude of over 654,000 feet. Agena will settle to a circular orbit of 161 nautical miles. Back on Earth, Armstrong and Scott climb into the Gemini craft and await countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff. Roger, talk to me.
At 11:41 a.m., Gemini begins its chase for Agena.
Yes, we got a roll program. Roger, roll.
Gemini breaks free of its booster and reaches orbit. Maneuvers for rendezvous are by now fairly routine, thanks to the progress of the Gemini 6 and 7 missions. The new challenge will be the docking procedure. Armstrong informs Mission Control that the rendezvous with Agena has taken place.
Roger, do you have solid radar lock on with the Agena? Over. Affirmative, we have solid radar lock. Just a second, I'll give you our current range. Roger, thank you. Sounds good.
Through his command pilot's window, Armstrong can see the target vehicle and prepares for the docking and approach procedure. With both craft traveling at the incredible speed of 17,500 miles per hour, Gemini 8 successfully docks with Agena.
We flight, we are docked.
Things seem to be going to plan until 27 minutes into initial docking and 7 hours into the mission. Both vehicles begin to roll out of control. Back on Earth, Gemini 7 pilot Jim Lovell has predicted this reaction and instructs Gemini 8 to override the potential problem with Agena.
Just send in command 400 to turn it off and take control of the spacecraft. Did you copy that?
But this is not successful. Both pilots hit the undocking button, only to find the trouble continues. The malfunction is with Gemini. The capsule spins at a dizzying rate of 1 revolution per second. The pilot's vision becomes blurred and they're having trouble reading the control panel. Armstrong thinks quickly, firing the rear entry thrusters. Though this solves the immediate problem, back at Mission Control, technicians calculate the loss of fuel, vital fuel required for re-entry. The flight director has decided to abort, but now he has more serious decisions to make. Where do we recover? What are the weather factors? How much daylight do we have? All the countless simulations and rehearsals are suddenly invaluable. The capsule lands within 2 miles of the predicted landing point. At 3:17 p.m. local time, USS Mason arrives to pick up crew and craft. All are in good shape. Within 72 hours, NASA scientists identify a short circuit in the wiring of a yaw engine which caused it to fire erratically. A master switch will be added for future Gemini missions to prevent this happening again. Despite its problems, Gemini 8 brings the first successful docking in space and the first orbital abort. More significantly, progress has been made. The vast knowledge gained through Project Mercury stands Apollo in great stead. While the Mercury and Gemini missions continue, a series of prototype launches has already taken place in preparation for Apollo's first manned spaceflight. But the Apollo project had a tragic start. On January 27, 1967, the Apollo 1 launch pad disaster took the lives of 3 astronauts, Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee. While aboard running a mock launch sequence, they were asphyxiated in their sealed command module when an electrical fire broke out. They were unable to open the capsule from the inside. The first manned Apollo command module would not be launched until 20 months later, so that modifications could be made. The unsung crew of Wally Schirra Jr., Don Isley, and Walter Cunningham become the guinea pigs for the next mission, Apollo 7. They will launch from Pad 34, where disaster struck just 21 months before. October 22, 1968, splashdown in the Atlantic during a rainstorm. But this will be one of the most successful missions yet. Mission objective: to prove that man and machine can function long enough in space to carry man to the moon and back. The new Apollo command module must be capable of taking man well beyond previous Earth orbits. The astronauts must carry out numerous tests in preparation for the coming lunar missions. They will concentrate on the maneuverability of the Apollo command module itself.
We have you go for orbit here, go for orbit.
Apollo 7 separates from the Saturn 4B stage. The crew must now practice turning the spacecraft around. The command module must be fully able to link up with other equipment in space. The Apollo 7 crew will remain in visual contact with the Saturn for some 30 minutes before pulling away. Inside the module, there is 4 times as much room as in the Gemini craft. Other tests for